Hello everyone. This is the sixth part of the story Game of Thrones, the Prideful one. Chapter 32. Daenerys was unexpectedly quite the passionate wife, maybe part of her dragon blood, and more often than not I found myself just getting used to this type of treatment. If I was going to hell, it would be for all the men I have killed, not for bedding my wife. But I still had yet to figure out if she was trying to manipulate me or not. She was genuinely sweet with me, but I had just incarcerated her brother. For me it just didn't add up. Was I being too paranoid, seeing plots where there weren't any? Maybe. Perhaps she was just trying her best to make this marriage a successful one. And yet, I had something stopping me from just trusting her, besides the fact we were strangers a month ago. I should really just let this go, I thought, as I stood off my bed making sure to leave Daenerys sleeping soundly. She tried to make it work with Drogo. I have to at least give her a chance. She was never a manipulator anyway. Now Cersei, that bitch is crazy. With a sigh I sneaked out of the room, to meet with Illyrio and have him find me a Dothraki interpreter. My first step was learning their language, then I would have to start conquering all the tribes. I had no issue with waiting and planning for the long run. The Seven Kingdoms would be there waiting for me, weaker than ever, ripe for the taking the moment I decided to go back. For now, I would let those idiots play their games because the moment I secured Essos would be the moment Westeros would be mine. Hey Illyrio, I need another thing for you. I approached the Magister with a wide smile, which for some reason startled him. Yes. Illyrio asked, cleaning his silk robe off the wine he had just spilled on himself. I need you to find me a Dothraki interpreter. I want to learn their language, I informed him. I don't know why, but I feel it's not my place to ask. Illyrio chuckled as he accepted his mission. Thanks, and you are absolutely right, it's not your place to ask. I smiled as I left the room. My destiny, the training grounds. It's been a while since I had a good workout that doesn't involve me and my wife. Not that I complain, but I can't fuck my enemies to death. I mean, is a possibility but is certainly not efficient. The training ground, the unsullied use in a close environment. Why, I have no idea, but I don't care. I start training hard, as minutes turn into hours until I hear someone entering the training ground. Daenerys Targaryen herself descends from the comfy bed to look for me, as she rushes in to give the incredibly sweaty me a kiss. She was wearing a blue beautiful dress with gold regalia and a gold dragon crown, which was one of the gifts Illyrio gave her. You have to stop waking up without waking me up, Daenerys smiled. Sorry, but you look so adorable sleeping, I can't do that, I said as I booed her nose. Daenerys giggled as she eyed my ass for a second. You are right, I married the best ass in the known world. I laughed. My ass takes the compliment. So training? Daenerys inquired. Well, I have to occupy my free time. I scratched the back of my head as I turned my gaze to the door, feeling someone behind, while I wait for the Dothraki teacher. I signaled Daenerys to step behind me as I rushed towards the door. She immediately understood, and soon after I was kicking the door down. The other side was empty, and no one but me was there. I'm going crazy. I could have sworn I felt someone staring at me a second ago. I really need to relax, or be really careful. I thought, making a mental note to order my ravens to keep an eye on everyone. If I wasn't crazy and someone managed to sneak and disappear without being caught by me, well, it was bad news. After my little incident where I felt I was being watched, I decided to send some ravens to get some of my men over Essos. I would need them for my plans. I had also ordered my krakens to protect my islands, and some ravens waiting for the war to start to deliver the message to my family we weren't joining the Starks in their war. They insulted me first anyways. I had already done higher than enough for them and they still took a shit on my hard work. At least Ned did. If Robb couldn't beat his last remaining death flag, the phrase, and avoid his fate, then frankly he was destined to die. My only duty was my promise to Sansa. I might not be able to marry her anymore, but I promise I would always keep her safe regardless of our relationship, and that I intend to keep it. I already had a deal with Varys, and he was one to keep his word. But that brought me back. If the phrase betrayed the Starks again, Sansa would either die or worse, end up marrying the old disgusting freak. So in the end I might as well kill the phrase. No, why would I? The Starks need to fucking do something for themselves, so instead I'll warn them, or raven here and there, and soon enough their heads will roll. If that didn't ensure her safety, well, I would have to, unfortunately, get more involved. Either way, I would keep my promise. I also wanted to protect Arya, but not because I promised anyone. That one was more of a personal goal. I liked the little rascal. she was a free spirit that didn't deserve all the shit she got, and while she ended up being badass, there were other ways to do so without getting all those emotional scars. Noticing it was getting late, I started to walk back to my room, wondering how would this war end. Victory was never 100% secured. I was pretty confident I would win anyways, but what clouded my mind was, how many would die for me to get the crown on my head? Shaking the thoughts off my head, I entered the room, and what I saw surprised me, one of those good surprises. Daenerys was sitting on the bed in very sexy dragon-inspired bedroom clothing. "I've been waiting for you," Daenerys said, crawling to me, "my king. She is getting good at the art of seduction, that much is sure." "Well, let's not wait anymore," I smiled as I eagerly dived into the bed. That night I had a dream, a really vivid dream. It was so realistic it made me feel it was real. I woke up inside a tent. Inside there were some Dothraki chanting something. "Plissif Cobb! Plissif 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 Cobb!" What were they chanting? They were happy, and I was happy. Why was I happy? I started to look around, trying to make sense of the situation, trying to understand what was going on, but a voice I had grown to recognize the last few weeks caught my attention. Daenerys was in my dream, covered in blood, but not hers. She was eating something, the heart of a horse. The fuck does this mean, and why does this dream make me happy? This shit makes little to no sense, I murmured in my dream as a white fog covered everything, leaving me with nothing but questions. Chapter 33. It took Illyrio roughly a couple of weeks to find a good Dothraki teacher willing to teach us. They were pretty rare. But once he found the teacher, I found the Dothraki language was quite dull and limited in its uses, with a very short vocabulary, making the classes go smoothly and fast, even though there were still some concepts hard to grasp. But I suppose I was a bit distracted by the bizarre dream I had a couple of weeks ago, and was focusing mostly during these classes to make sense of the chant I heard. "Plissif Cobb!" Those words echoed in my head like a butterfly in a cage. Daenerys, on the other hand, was doing a bit better than me, absorbing the language like she was born for it. She was quite excited to learn this with me. And I didn't see any problems with her joining my classes. In fact, it was most beneficial for me and her, so I happily paid the teacher extra to teach both of us. Their culture is so fascinating. Daenerys was happy to expand her knowledge and eager to learn new things. This frankly made her pretty adorable at times. "Can you translate something for me?" I asked the teacher, who turned his gaze to meet mine. "What do you want to translate?" The teacher inquired, accepting my request. If I knew how to write it, it would be easier to ask him what I want, but because I didn't know how to do it, I imitated the sound, "Lizzie Cub." I think that was it. Well, that can only mean bear cub, but why would you want me to translate that?" The teacher asked as I started to analyze the dream I had. My head was probably playing games with me, using the fact I've been sleeping with Daenerys every day and that I want to conquer the Dothraki to create that very specific dream. Or at least that would make sense if it wasn't for the fact I didn't know any Dothraki words before that dream, and thanks to my teacher I confirmed those words meant something, so perhaps it was more than a simple dream. I couldn't help but look at my wife, my eyes slowly drifting to her flat stomach. Was she pregnant? She wasn't drinking anything to stop or prevent a pregnancy, so it wouldn't surprise me if she announced that she was with a child any time now. I don't know how it hasn't occurred to me that I might be a father soon, how that fact didn't dawn on me sooner. "We will soon," Daenerys smiled, noticing that I was looking at her belly. That would be great. I was lost on what to say, so I decided to say something positive, nod, and continue with the class. After the Dothraki class, I went on with my daily routine, training, and stuff. I still didn't have the manpower to move, so all I could do was gather information. As I trained, a maid entered with a cup of water, but some time was off about her. Her aura and her general vibe were immensely more dangerous than any other maids working in the castle. "Who are you?" I inquired, as I dropped the cup of whatever she tried to poison me with. "What do you mean, Master Mormont?" The maid said with slight fear, but something inside me told me it was fake. "You either tell me who you are, and I will personally introduce you to my sword, and believe me, your relationship will be intimate." I smiled as I grabbed my sword. A man is impressed. A man was right all along. All of a sudden the voice of the so-called maid changed. "You are a faceless man." I muttered. A man would be correct, the maid/faceless man nodded. A man wanted to see the blessed one, and a man was right to do so. "So who paid you enough money to kill yourself?" I inquired as I approached him, "'Cause you must know, this is a suicide, you can't win against me." "A man will not and have not taken any contracts against you, but others can use a man to hurt you otherwise," the faceless maid answered. He basically said, he would not accept contracts with my name on the list, but others I care about they would. Daenerys, Sansa, my family, or my future sons and daughters. "You are basically begging for your religion to go extinct," I growled. "A man would expect nothing else, Vala Morgulis, Vala Dohaeris, all men must die, all men must serve, a man is done here," the faceless man said as he removed his face changing into another one. "He came to warn me others would target my loved ones, and what did he mean by blessed one?" I thought as I watched him leave. After that ominous chat with the assassin, I decided to step up my security even more. I ordered 50 ravens to be on high alert around the castle, with Rhoda leading this. Yes, I named a raven that behaves like Yoda, Rhoda. "HRMM protect you, I will, YRSSS." Rhoda took the assignment with great honor. "Thanks, I'm counting on you," I chuckled. After setting ever tighter security, I went to talk to Illyria about the accommodations for the 5,000 men that were arriving in a week. Once they arrived, I would start my campaign to take over the Dothraki. But I needed food, supplies, and other things before we left this place. One of the reasons Illyria would come quite handy, supplying us with all that and more for an affordable price. "Magister," I announced my presence as I entered his office. "King Mormont, what an unexpected surprise." Illyria had learned to call me king. Was it out of fear or respect? I didn't really care. I started to explain to him in detail what I wanted: weapons, food, making a very detailed list of supplies he would have to provide before we left his castle. "Is that all?" Illyria inquired, going over the list. "Yes, I hope you continue to be our supplier," I smiled, leaving an unspoken threat in the air: "Betray me and I will gut you." "Then I will get to it," Illyria nodded, not daring to look me in the eyes. With that done, it was time to sleep. I had a wife to see and do married things with. After another passionate marital night with my wife, I fell asleep soundly in a matter of minutes, but again, instead of darkness, a quite vivid dream awaited me. Snow, lots and lots of snow, covering every single corner of my dream world. I felt cold anyways. My body seemed to accept this dream, or possibly vision, as a reality. Where am I now? This doesn't seem like the north, maybe beyond the wall? I thought as I walked aimlessly, trying to find something to make sense of what I was seeing. I don't know for how long I walked inside my dream, but it felt like hours, and all I could see and feel was cold, and a sense of dread filled me, fear. I haven't felt that in a while, not like this, and to feel it in a dream is idiotic, but when I dreamed of Daenerys that time, I was happy. And that fact made this even more serious. What if this was a dream? No, if this was a vision warning me of the White Walkers. I was prepared for them. I have been hoarding dragon glass for a while, and I can pretty sure take on the Night King alone, so what is the weird vision trying to warn me about? My thoughts are halted when an undead dire wolf appears, looking at me. Is this a vision warning about Jon, and how he will die? Not that I hate the guy, but why would that even affect me? I thought as I observed the wolf in detail. But there it stood, doing nothing but looking at me. There must be something relevant to me here, but what? I thought, but before I could think on that further, a loud noise behind me caught my attention. I immediately turned around to see the source of the sound, finding something I didn't expect to find. An army of undead White Walkers with a dragon that wasn't any of the ones I knew or had. It was massive, around the same size the dragon originally named Drogo would be, and on top of it, mounting it, there was someone smiling at me. I wanted to get a better look, to see who was that person mounting the dragon. It wasn't the Night King, it was someone new. But before I could get my answer, something pulled me back to the real world. "Wake up!" Daenerys was shaking me, with concern. "I'm up, what happened?" I inquired mildly, annoyed that I didn't get to see who was mounting the dragon. "You were sweating, and shaking." I got scared. Daenerys breathed out. It took me a second to see that I was indeed soaked in sweat. I had probably scared the ever-living crap out of her. "I'm okay. It was just a bad dream I had. I soothed her as I hugged her. Chapter 34. It didn't matter what I tried, the dream, no, the nightmare had haunted me, not only with fear but doubts. Why did I dream that? What was the message? And who was that man riding that dragon? And how the hell did they find a dragon, to begin with? The image of that man, the dragon, and the army, was vivid in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, or stopped thinking, I would without even noticing make my mind drift into what I saw. Perhaps I had been underestimating an army that only grows every battle. No. I didn't underestimate them. I have been using the knowledge I have of this universe to prepare to win on a long night. But all this time, I had been neglecting something that might as well put my life on the line if I keep ignoring it. It has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can ultimately cause a typhoon halfway around the world. Every action we take creates an echo. I was the flutter. By all I know, my sole existence fucked the world. I brought changes into this world, and one of them might be what I saw. I possibly created a chain of events that ultimately made my life harder. I need to prepare even harder for the long night. That feeling of dread and fear I felt weren't normal. I might not like to admit it, but I was scared. But that's good. Fear motivates us to grow stronger, to prepare ourselves better to face what is to come. That I will do. I might be afraid, but I will fight. Our men will arrive tomorrow, right? Daenerys inquired, sitting beside me. Yes, so far that the information I have, I nodded. For now, I had to put those dreams aside, whether they were a warning or not. I still needed the crown to have a chance to stop the long night from ever occurring. One more step to take what is ours, Daenerys said, filled with determination. She had no doubts in her mind we would take the crown. I chuckled. I will put that crown on your head before I burn the damn throne and crown and forge a new pair, for us. Daenerys smiled, satisfied with my answer as she leaned in, kissing me, a throne worthy of their new king and queen, their rightful ones. Yes, I nodded, kissing her back. Let's go to our last class. Daenerys kissed me once again as she guided me to our teacher. I continued with my classes, learning Dothraki every day more and more, and by this point, I could understand fluently everything, and hold conversations in their language. I had an accent, but it was to be expected. Daenerys was doing a lot better than me in the accent department, though I was ahead on the writing part. After the final class, our teacher left, leaving us with the reminder to study the little we still had to learn by ourselves. We finally know how to speak their language, Daenerys said, clearly proud of herself. Now it's just a question of waiting for our men. I nodded. Soon our conquest would start, and every victory would be a step closer to the Iron Throne. The first ones to come into the fold would be the Dothraki. I would start conquering the free cities, one by one, ensuring that the entirety of Essos is under my banner. Once all the free cities were under my banner, I would move to conquer the Second Sons, and with that Essos would be mine. But my plan to conquer didn't end there. Unlike my wife, I wanted all Essos, including Bravos, and I would have it, Bravos, their army, and the Iron Bank with all its gold. After that, well, whatever that was left of Westeros would be mine, though there were a few things I wanted to do before leaving Essos. For one, I wanted to investigate the ruins of Valyria and see what can I salvage, and also try to find more dragon eggs there. Valyria, the broken empire, I muttered as I opened the book I got from Valyria in Illyrio's library. Valyria, also called Old Valyria, is a ruined city in Essos. It is a long-dead city of wonderment and was once the capital of a great empire called the Valyrian Freehold. It was destroyed by a cataclysmic event known as the Doom of Valyria. It is the ancestral home of House Targaryen, House Celtigar, and House Valerion. I only recognized House Targaryen. I continued reading about how House Targaryen was the smallest house of the three, and how the other two houses fucked their own empire in a struggle for power. But what interested me was that the book said that it is rumored that Valyria holds many treasures of its past glory there, which meant Valyrian blades and maybe more. And to be honest, I would be happy if I found the recipe, the trick in how to make Valyrian steel. I knew you needed a dragon, but besides that, the method was unknown, but all books agreed on one thing: you needed dragons and magic to make said metal. But besides going to Valyria and conquering Essos, there wasn't much I wanted to do in this part of the world, for now. It's late, come to bed with me, Daenerys' sleepy voice called me out, begging to be cuddled, and frankly, I was tired, so I didn't see any reasons to say no. I could always read more tomorrow. Fine, I shall warm you to oblivion, wife. I chuckled as I got inside the blankets, moving close to her. I am a dragon, you are the one that will get burned, Daenerys said teasingly. I don't mind that type of burn, I smirked at her, as we both started to chat, and slowly but surely drifted into sleep. I woke up the next morning to my wife kissing me, with a smug look on her face, as if she had won something. What's up with that face? I yawned, stretching my body still under the comfy and warm blankets. You didn't wake up without me, Daenerys smiled adorably, biting her lower lip, as she added, it seems you are finally getting comfortable in bed with me. So that was her victory call, that I overslept today. Frankly, I couldn't understand what part of that could possibly make me a better husband or make her happy, but if it makes her happy, who was I to judge? I see, well, if me waking up with you makes you so happy, then it shall be done. Frankly, I didn't wake her up to let her sleep more, but if she wanted to wake up with me, then she was more than welcomed. Daenerys smiled as she got on top of me, resting her naked breast on my bare chest. I never understood why girls like teddy bears until I got my own. Ha ha ha, that has to be the less sexy name I could possibly be called, I laughed. After all, there wasn't anything sexy about a stuffed animal. Mine is custom made, Daenerys whispered to my ear, it came with a few extra parts. I can't believe you were shy a few months ago, frankly, you had me fooled, I laughed as I kissed her. Well, it's your fault, my king, you made me a queen, and a queen can't be shy. Daenerys kissed me as she dragged her hand through my chest to my manhood. A queen knows what she wants and gets it. Then claim your bounty, my queen, claim this bear as your own once again, I kissed her. Our men could wait a couple of hours for us, who was I to deny a dragon from her conquest? I was but a mere bear riding a dragon. Chapter 35. My men had arrived, though for reasons they didn't have to know nor I wanted to share, they had to wait on the coast for hours. But after my shenanigans with my wife, I went down to greet my men, Daenerys by my side. So this is our fleet? Daenerys inquired, head high full of regal air. She was so different to others and yet so one with me. It is my queen, I smiled as I pulled her close to me by her waist. Do you like it? Daenerys giggled as she nodded. I do, but I think I like the man leading it more. What a lucky man that must be, to be loved by a queen, I grinned, giving her a quick and sweet peck on the lips. He is quite lucky, indeed, Daenerys teased. Frankly, she made me forget at times what world I was in. It was hard not to get lost in those purple mystifying eyes. Well, while I would love to kiss you all day, my queen, we have some matters to attend to. I kissed her one last time as I added, shall we? Unfortunately you are right, let's, Daenerys nodded. We approached the ships, and we were greeted by one of the lords, who bowed to us, which was in itself weird. I still had yet to declare myself the king of the 7 kingdoms. Your Majesties, the Lord bowed. Seeing my look of befuddlement, the Lord elaborated, you married a Targaryen. We might be dumb, but we ain't that dumb. I didn't know if I should be surprised or something else, but he was right nonetheless. I decided to end this wheel before my marriage. My beautiful wife just makes my conquest even more important, for her enemies are mine. With that, the Lord turned to Daenerys, my queen. We first bowed to dragons and more recently to the bears. We are honored to serve you both. The Lord bowed once again. Daenerys smiled, satisfied with his words. Very well, I took a step forward as I asked, how is the south? Last thing we heard before leaving was that Robert Baratheon broke your betrothal to Sansa Stark and that Lord Stark was appointed as the new hand of the king, and was going south with him, the Lord answered, which gave me a rough idea of timeline-wise where we were. Daenerys shifted uncomfortably at the mention of Sansa, which reminded me, I had yet to talk with her about that, it just never came up that I was engaged. Very well, make sure all men are well rested, tomorrow we begin, I ordered him, as I took my wife by the hand softly to a more private area. Once we were alone, I sighed and said, ask whatever you want. Daenerys eyed me carefully before she asked, with a hint of worry in her voice, do you love her? Heavens, no, she is a sweet and innocent girl, but I don't love her, all I feel for her is some kind of brotherly love, if you must put a name to it, I answered, and because of that brotherly bond that I alone form with her is that I want to protect her. Daenerys relaxed with a hint of happiness at my answer as she asked, but she loves you? I think she does, or at least is in love with the idea of the knight in shining armor I projected. I shrugged playfully, she might hate me for all I know when she hears I marry you. Good let her, only I get to mount this teddy bear, and if I must be hated for it, so be it, Daenerys laughed, as she gave me a passionate kiss. You don't hear me complaining, I smiled, reciprocating the kiss. After greeting my men at the coast, I went to Illyrio to make sure everything I asked him was in order: weapons, food, medicine, and guides to help us understand and find our way in this land. Magister, is everything in order? I inquired, entering his office. I have found everything you asked for, from food and maps to guides and weapons, Illyrio nodded, giving a detailed list, including the prices for each thing. Good, everything seems to be in order, I said as I check every item on the list. I will get you the payment soon. Very well, anything else, Your Majesty? Illyrio inquired. Nothing for now, that'll be all for now. The time to conquer Essos had finally come. I had the men, the resources, and a general idea on how to proceed. Let the fucking game finally begin. After leaving my men to rest, the Unsullied working for Illyrio to take care that the stuff I bought got to their hands, I decided to go to sleep early. This might be the last good night of sleep I would probably have in quite a while. I suppose in a way it was my honeymoon with Daenerys because, after today, things would start shaking, and war, as I had never seen or experienced before, would begin. But for today I would enjoy my last free day with my wife, and with that in mind, I entered the room that has been our room since we married. I've been waiting for you, Daenerys smiled as she approached me, putting her arms around my neck and legs around my waist as she kissed me. Tomorrow our destiny awaits, my king. It does, my queen, I chuckled, as I kissed her back. I wanted to talk to you about something, Daenerys said with a somewhat serious tone as if she had done something wrong. That never ends well, but go on, I eyed her with curiosity. I don't think there was something besides trying to kill me that would make me angry with her. It's about your father, Daenerys said. Well, maybe I was too hasty to say she can't get me angry, but I wasn't angry at her, I was angry at the soon-to-be-dead man that ignored my threat. I grabbed my sword and started to leave. I'll be back, I have an old bear to kill. Wait, hear me out first. Daenerys said, with eyes that said if what I have to say doesn't convince you, you are free to kill him. Very well, I sighed, pushing the huge need to bash my father's skull against the floor. I know what he did, he told me so, how he abandoned you, and left you with a broken house, Daenerys said as she grabbed my hands. I know the sins he committed trying to please that vile woman, instead of thinking of his family. I know all of that. Then you know why I want to kill him, I inquired, curious as to where she was going with this. Let him pay for his sins in blood, let him pay what he owes us by fighting for us, Daenerys said with a cold tone. He wronged you, let him pay with steel all he did so that his miserable life amounts to something in our name. Frankly, I was both incredibly aroused and somewhat intrigued. I did not expect her to offer such a deal. So in other words, we let him serve, so if he dies is by helping us, I said, summarizing what she said. Daenerys smiled. Yes, he will pay for your suffering with blood, or with fire, but he will pay. All right, I don't see anything wrong with that, I nodded as I scooped her over with one hand. Now how about we make this night a memorable one? Don't we do that every night? Daenerys giggled. Is it so bad that I want every night to be memorable? I smirked. Chapter 36. The next morning, I woke up early to the dawning rising sun, and the first thing on my to-do list was to start coordinating the logistics of what we were going to do once we were outside of Pentos. I had already ordered my ravens previously to spread out and look all over Essos. Their mission was simple: to find as many Dothraki's tribes as possible. The bigger the Khalasar, the better. Once they located some, they would have to come back to me giving me their general location. That way, I would find them, giving me the element of surprise and time to plan how to subdue them. So far, I had the location of 3 small Khalasars, with each one having around 1,000 to 3,000 riders or able warriors. While I wanted to know where the biggest Khalasar were and absorb them, I would target the small Khalasars first, because while my plan of using their horses might work, it might also backfire terribly. If the awful case scenario they for some reason believed I was using some kind of black sorcery, things would go bad, especially if I was outnumbered. I was a super soldier, not a god. It would be stupid to target Khals like Drogo at first, he would obliterate me in sheer numbers. That's why I wanted to target smaller Khalasars, because if my plan went wrong, I would have enough manpower to subdue them. Today is the day, Daenerys smiled, snapping me out of my long reverie, standing right beside me. I nodded, as I walked to the coast with my wife and some of our men guarding us. My men had rested and were ready to march. Illyrio had provided them with all the items I had ordered for this specific campaign. "We are ready, my king," the commander of my men announced. "Good," I acknowledged, as we started to move out of Pentos. After making sure everything was ready, we left Pentos, following the directions one of my ravens gave me to the smallest colossus they had found so far. This would be the perfect target to test run and see if I could do as I did with the Ironborn and make them believe I was some kind of chosen one. If that didn't work, I would have to resort to plan B, either kill the Call and claim the Colossus, which I wasn't entirely sure it would work considering there was nothing in the books I read about them that said or even hinted that foreigners could be named Call of a Colossus. And if B didn't work, I would have to go down to sea and kill everyone in the Colossus. It would take us roughly 4 days before we even arrived close to the small Colossus that was if we didn't stop, and while I was eager to see if I could use the Dothraki for my conquest, I was not going to make my men suffer for it, so we would rest after a day or two. I knew I could win from what my ravens had found out. They had about 1,000 able soldiers or riders. 3 days later. The terrain was beautiful yet unforgiving, both majestic and terrifying. The plains were covered in gold-colored grass, with animals roaming free, both predators and prey. So far it has been 3 days since we left Pentos, and so far we haven't found any type of problems in our path, besides the scorching sun and the harsh climate, but all our effort was about to pay off because we are finally close to the Colossus I had targeted. My ravens had informed me that the Colossus had set up a camp a few miles away from us, which meant it was time to prepare for what it was to come. The first thing I did was to instruct some of my men to set up camp and protect Daenerys should things go wild. Not that they were, but it's always good to have a backup plan just in case. While they did that, I discussed with my general and lieutenant in the war tent how to proceed. I wanted their inputs, because who knows, they might have a good idea. One of my lieutenants had the idea to simply go and talk to them with basically what I call a white flag, but Dothraki didn't have white flag culture, which meant approaching them with non-hostile intentions was not only stupid and suicidal if I were to go alone, but it would also end with me fighting the horde alone, which didn't appeal to me at all. From what I read, they even attacked other Khalasars showing no mercy whatsoever, so if they did that with their own people, with which they shared culture and blood, it would be pretty safe to assume they will try to destroy me as soon as they notice my presence. My general had the great idea of just showing them my strength as I did with them, but I wanted to keep the casualties to a minimum, so I discarded that idea for now. But in the end, regardless of how, I still had to approach them in some way. For any of my plans to work, I needed to be relatively close to their horses for my power to work. It also didn't help that none of my men knew about my powers, something I pretended to keep in the shadows until I had the Iron Throne or at the very least all Essos in my hands, so with them making suggestions without having useful knowledge about how I could approach the situation, technically made our discussion mostly useless. After a couple of hours discussing mostly useless ideas, while the camp was being set, I finally decided what to do. While not what I originally wanted, I would have to face them head-on, and once I was within striking distance, I would focus on recruiting their horse to my cause. This plan, of course, meant I would have to kill some of them, but there wasn't any other way, at least I was aware of. "Well, that's it for today. Tomorrow we march," I said as I left the tent, to see what my wife was doing. I entered my tent, finding Daenerys having a one-sided conversation with the ravens that took to their heart brooding the eggs. "You guys know these aren't raven eggs?" Daenerys giggled. "How dare you? They will be more raven than you will ever be." "Caw." One raven cawed angrily, feeling insulted. "Caw, she is lucky that she mates with the Cornbringer, or else she could get the caw-caw-caw-caw combo," another raven added. Ha ha ha, I laughed seeing the interaction. What made this even funnier was that Daenerys didn't understand shit what they were saying, which made this a joke only I would understand. "What's so funny?" Daenerys inquired with an amused expression. "Well, for one, the raven brooding the eggs are dissing you, while, of course, you have no idea, but thanks to my powers, I can understand them, nothing," I said, failing to contain my laughter completely. "It was me talking with the ravens, wasn't it?" Daenerys pouted adorably. "It's part of it," I nodded, kissing her. "So any updates, my king?" Daenerys inquired. "Well, if you wish to know, my queen," I started to explain in detail what we were going to do tomorrow, little by little, each detail, before we both fell asleep. I woke up the next morning earlier than usual. I was to get ready for the upcoming fight. My scouts aka my ravens had told me that the Khalasar knew of our presence, so I had to prepare. Fast. I wasn't nervous, not much anyway. I had fought worse battles so far, but for some reason having someone to go back to, someone I think I might end up falling like an idiot in love with if I haven't already, made my heart beat with doubts. Maybe this is why Cersei said love was a weakness. I kissed Daenerys with a long passionate kiss before I rode off with my men. This was my first battle for the Iron Throne. It didn't take us long to find the Khalasar. They were a few miles away, but I could see the Khalasar getting closer and closer, their battle screams thundering the empty plains. Well, remember my words, men. I shouted as I charged, hearing my man shout, my house ancestral words. Here we stand. This marks the end of part 6 of the story Game of Thrones, The Prideful One. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.